So today I am going to be doing a demonstration on how it is to make a descriptive research. So as discussed in the research design, this is one of the quantitative research designs that we have. So for today, we will be demonstrating how it is to make a descriptive research. So first off, you have to take hold of your stylistic format if you have, or the format at which your school uses. But in Gliern Province State University, we have this board approved stylistic format wherein all the wherein it serves as a guide for you in the formatting and the parts of making a research paper. So as you can see, we have a prescribed paper size and page setup, and we will be formatting um, our paper based on these standards and guidelines. So I will be formatting now the paper based on the prescribed guidelines, which is the paper size of A4 and a margin of 1.5 on top and on the left, and 1 inch on the bottom and on the right side. So it helps to format it in advance because you might not get the chance to format it again due to lack of time. As shown in another video, it is imperative that you make first, or find relevant studies and make first your review of related literature, so that you will be able to be guided of what the study, or what makes your study novel, what has been done about your study, and the particular methods that can be applied to your study. So the topic today that we are that I will be making is on knowledge of faculty researchers on preparing proposals for submission to external grants. So this is one of the areas in a state university that is very important. It's one of the key performance indicators under our SUC leveling. And of course, it is very important to be able to conduct quality researches because most often the fund that you have in a university is not enough to conduct quality researches that have state of the art equipment. So our budget comes from the Department of Budget and Management from, of course, the Filipino taxes, and this this is a fixed amount that has been presented, or a fixed amount that is a law, the General Appropriations Act, that is identified annually. And then the second funding source is from the income generating activities of the university, such as tuition fees. So today we have free tuition. So the CHAD pays the tuition fees of our students, most of the tuition fees of our students, and 10% of this income of state universities can be used for research services. But most often the funding is not enough because equipment for laboratories are very expensive. So it is imperative that schools or colleges, because we call them schools in BIPSO, find endowment funds from government agencies agencies and sometimes from private sectors or international governments. So today we will be making a study anchored on trying to find out the knowledge of faculty on preparing external grants because we want to make an intervention that is based on their needs. We want to implement a program that will be based on their capacity so that our capacity building activities will not be wasted. So we have to know the level of knowledge that they have on preparing grants for external funding. And to date, through this external funds, Biliran Province State University has been given more than 20 million of funds in a span of 4 years from different government agencies. So what I am doing now is trying to copy all relevant literature, which I think is can be used as a backgrounder for my study. So we have shown how to do this extensively in another video of making your review of related literature. So we're just compiling and trying to write the sources of such literature so that we won't be having a hard time of finding the source later on. So we have demonstrated this in another video. So now we will be making our introduction. This is also based on our stylistic format in Beepso. So uh, our nature and importance or our rationale is based on the different literatures. So we have gathered so far, and there are actually four parts to rationale or nature and importance as stated in our stylistic format. So the first will establish your main thesis, while the second will try to summarize all the literature about both negative and positive about the topic that you want to delve on. And the third is actually trying to establish the gaps in your study. Why are you going to conduct the study? Where is the problem? Where is the dilemma? So uh, in between your need and the solution is usually your gap. So you have to establish why or what gap are you going to address through your research or scientific process. So, and we are going to make that today, but because of the for the purpose of just trying to elucidate how a nature and importance of this study is made, we'll just give a few sentences about the study and then try to establish what more information can be placed in your rationale. So um, during your outputs, you also can try to have three sentences per part rather. So there are four parts. So you can have two to three sentences per part, and then all the rest you can try to place there with or show through a parenthesis what more information can be found in your or rationality or nature and importance of the study. So just for the purpose of trying to um, uh, demonstrate how a rationality or nature and importance is made, we will fill in some of the parts or some of the sentences in our rationality, and the others will try to give you a picture of what more information can be found in the rationale through um, parenthesis. So after your rationality or nature and importance, you're now going to make your objectives. So the objectives is always SMART. You already know the meaning of SMART. So you have to the objectives is basically summarizing all the data that you will be gathering in your study from the first until the end. It is a chronological sequence of all the data or capturing in writing the chronological sequence of data that you will be gathering in your study. So for this part, we will be giving a sample of uh, your objectives, the objectives that we, or the objectives and the data to be gathered in the study. So, some require a statement of the problem, and the statement of the problem is usually in just a question form of your objectives, but most stylistic formats would require to make an objective, because this is usually how journals try to phrase the purpose of why they conduct their study. So some studies also have a specific objective, and then this is followed by um, a, some studies have a general objective, and then this is followed by a list of specific objectives. So these are so far the objectives in the study that we are working with this after we are working with. So most studies will try to this is actually one of the most social researches will need for you to establish your theoretical and conceptual framework. So uh, m- more often than not, I will see studies that will try to confuse the two. So, a theoretical framework is actually uh, the theory at which you anchor your study. So, be it example, you want to establish whether Maslow's hierarchy of needs is still is working or is still follows the hierarchy of needs in another situation, not not the same with the original context at which the theory was made. So um, this is actually when you find your theory, the rest of your study is easier to plan and to make, because you now have the basis at which you will try to prove or disprove whether that theory applies or is still evident, or is it can be used in another situation, your study at which it's different from the original context at which the theory was used for. While your conceptual framework is usually the statement of how the variables or the different variables in your study relate to each other. So as we know, there are independent and dependent variables. So the dependent variables or the independent variables will influence the dependent variables, and then usually some studies will have some form of modifying or intervening variables, or these are not the main variables at which you're studying, but they usually in social researches affect your results. So they are called modifying variables. So the theory will try to give the the theoretical foundation at which the concepts of your study are related, and then the conceptual framework will try to show how each of the concepts under study relate to each other in such a way that will generate the data, or will in such a way that you will try to study it which these concepts relate to each other. So mostly in the theory, you try to describe in the theoretical framework. You try to describe and discuss your theory, or the theoretical foundation of your study, and in the concepts, you will try to show the relationship of concepts or variables under study. So, for the purpose of this study, we will anchor our study on the knowledge, attitude, and practice theory, which states that knowledge will lead to attitude, and then will lead to intention. Sometimes there's an intention, and will lead to practice. So, uh, and then we will, in the conceptual framework, we'll try to establish at which the variables will try to influence the results and relate to each other through a diagram showing the relationship of these variables. So here I will try to revise the objectives based on our conceptual framework and based on our theoretical and conceptual framework, just to show you the relationship of our knowledge, attitude, and practice. And so you can apply how a theory and a conceptual framework will work in the context of a study. So basically it's not about copying a theory, but it's rather trying to show whether or not a theory can be used in the context of the context of the study or the question that you are trying to answer. So that's why I'm trying to revise, just to show you how theoretical and conceptual framework will apply to the context of the study at which we have now. So next, we will now be making our methods. So usually it's called materials and methods for experimental and biological and physical researches, while for your social researches it's usually called methodology. So, but I will be using methods. So um, there are the parts of materials and methods or methodology are seen, or they are outlined in our stylistic format. So the first is the research design. So here you will usually describe your research design, and then try to give how you plan on conducting your study, and try to elaborate on your research design and the different variables under study. So for this part, I will not be I will not be lengthening the example, so that the part of your assignment or part of your competency will to show me how you make a research design, so that I will know if you were able to apply our topic on research design. So, and then you proceed to making your locale and study respondents. And in here, you'll try to justify why you conducted it in that locality. And then who are your study respondents, and how you will be choosing your respondents. So basically, we will be also discussing sampling. So there are usually two types of sampling method, as you will learn later: the purposive, rather the random and non-random research design. So uh, most of the random sampling research designs are used in uh, quantitative methods, while your non-random research designs are used in your qualitative methods. So and then we proceed to making the data gathering methods, and then the data analysis. So data gathering will show how you will plan to gather your data, and data analysis will show how you will analyze your data. So a large part of your descriptive research design is your questionnaire. So sometimes studies will try to use already the trend right now is for studies to use already uh, an available questionnaire from another study, and then so that they already are ensured of its reliability and validity, and will compare the Cronbach's alpha of their study to that of the questionnaire or the original study. So, but for our purpose of trying to show to you how a questionnaire is being made, so we are trying to make one. So, a questionnaire is usually based on your objectives of the study. So, that's why I'm trying to go back to the objectives and trying to make the questions. But if we are to proceed with this study, we will be making our own questionnaire. It's a researcher constructed questionnaire because uh, we will try to assess, we will use the data for making an intervention on capacity building on a capacity building program for our faculty. So, this is an example of a questionnaire, and of course, in the first part, you have to insert the informed consent or your letter to your respondents. So, this is usually how you make a questionnaire, as you can also observe. I didn't anymore get the age, the civil status, and the educational attainment, and any social demographic characteristic, because it's not part of my variables. I am not going to investigate how their social demographic characteristic will lead to their or will affect their knowledge. So you do not also have to put any social demographic questions if you have not established whether or not they play an intervening or modifying role on affecting your dependent variable. So, granting that we have already conducted our study, we are now ready to encode our data. So, just for the purpose of elucidating how a data is encoded, this is not to teach you to make up data, but rather to show to you how a data is encoded, how the data is encoded. I will be showing to you a sample. So usually the minimum number of respondents for it to be analyzed statistically is 30, but others will try to use Sloven's formula and other uh, s- um, ways of trying to identify the sound number of respondents for your study. But for this part, I'm trying to generate answers, or trying to generate the scores of your respondents. So each correct answer is represented by a one, a number one, while the blank areas are those incorrect answers. So the correct answer for question number two is socioeconomic impact. So all those who answered socioeconomic impact will be given 1 point, while those who answered B to D will not score anything. So It's also the same for number three. So for number one, if you answered the acronym correctly, if you have written line item budget, then you will get 1 point. So right now, we will now be tallying the total scores. So for question number one, um, using the sum function, AutoSum, we will now generate the number of or the frequencies of those who got a correct answer. So as you can see, there are a total of 5 respondents that were able to give the correct answer for question 1. For question 2, there are 18 respondents that have given the correct answer, while for question 3, there are um, 3 respondents who have gotten the correct answer. And then now we'll try to get the percentage of those who got the correct answer. So this is 5 over 30, which is the total number of respondents, to give you 16.67%, and then 18, which is 60%, and 3, which is 10%. So 3 over 30 is 10%. So now we will be showing how a results and discussion is made. So basically, your results and discussion is just follows the order at which your objectives is written. So the first of the objectives is to assess respondents' knowledge. So this is the first section that we will be having for our results and discussion. So there are 3 parts of results and discussion. First is that you present your results, and then you write the meaning of your results. What does your result mean? Interpret them, and then you make your implications. So many you can use a graph for presenting your results, as shown herein in the sample. But for knowledge questions, I am usually comfortable with a table to show the different parameters used, the frequencies, and the percentages. So right now we are using a graph. So of those who got the correct and incorrect answer, but it is very descriptive to show which of the questions that the respondents got correctly or incorrectly, just to give the readers a feel, or the panel feel of what are the questions that are considered difficult, and what are the questions that respondents have no knowledge on, and what are the questions that respondents have knowledge on. So based on our example, if we are to gauge our different questions, we would say that many people would not, or many faculty are not knowledgeable of the grants DOSC provide, while they are familiar of the different outputs that a research, an externally funded research can generate. So right now we are encoding the questions. So as you can see, we have translated the questions into declarative sentence rather than the question form, and then we are typing the frequencies and the percentages of those that got a correct and incorrect answer. So this is based on 100%, which is 30 of the respondents. So how many got the respondents correct? The question 1 correctly, that's 5. So while the rest, the 25 respondents, or you have 83.33% got the question incorrectly. So we proceed with doing it for the rest of the the questions. So for our requirement, you are just you need to have at least three questions or three items, and then show to me the data, and then show to me the summary. It can be in a table form or it can be in a graph form, but you have to show to me three items. For the discussion part, however, you just need to show me a sample of one item and discuss it. So as you will be seeing in a little bit, so we have now completed the table and we are proceeding to formatting the table. Of course, let us not forget to put an introduction, because usually you do not put or you do not introduce the figures and the table. You just automatically put the table, but you have to introduce what the table is about. As you can see, table 1 below, and then you have to put also the title of the table, so that this will guide the readers that when you say the table below or table 1, which are you referring to. But mostly the rule is to have the description first, or to discuss the table, or to introduce the table in text, and then put the table below your introduction. So I'm trying to make now the discussion part. So I gave the results, and then describe the results, how many of the respondents were able to get the question, which is the acronym of the LIB, correctly. And then I have my interpretation here, or my implications, a little bit of literature about LIB, and then the implications of what does not getting the correct answer mean. So what does the results imply? So you have to have results and discussion. You present the results and you discuss what is the meaning of the results, and this is the discussion part, because most often than not I will just see citing of the results, but the discussion or the implication does not follow. So you have to show me both. So we will now be doing some final formatting of the paper based on the prescribed format, and um, the font style, sizes, the alignment, and others. And we will also be inserting here our literature cited, or references. Remember to follow the APA style of reference formatting, so as you will be seeing in a bit. We will now not anymore be putting any conclusion and recommendations, but you have to put in one example of literature cited. So you have to show me an in text, um, how you put it in text and how you put it in the literature cited. So this is an example. So I will be putting it in text right here, and then I will also be putting it in the literature cited or references at the end of the paper. So that is it. That is how you make a research anchored on descriptive research design. So for your requirement, you have to show me the 5 to 10 pages of sample mock study, and then you also have to give me your literature, your list of literature, your draft of your literature, which should be 10 literature studies, and then You also have to give me the Excel form of your data analysis or your data encoded or your encoded data.